base.
What is up, Frog fans? Welcome to Postgame Beers, this very special edition of Postgame Beers because, boys, it is Regionals Eve. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. I don't know about you guys. I haven't been able to sleep all week, honestly.
Same,
we are the Lupton Drinking Club. I'm your host tonight, JD Sailors. We almost have a full crew tonight. We have the producer, Ray Cartwright. We have the Sultan of Stat, Martin Guerrero. And for the first time in a while, the uninformed frog, Garrett's here. He's playing PlayStation. Well,
I'm here.
Dude, he's trying to get those show cards. He's trying to get that 99 Otani.
I don't know. I don't have
that diamond.
PlayStation.
It's a hopeless addiction. It's a problem. How we doing, boys?
How did Uninformed Pod go last night? I haven't had a chance to listen yet.
Dude, it was fun because this time of year, there's very little to kind of go on. Not much news is breaking right now, which is a good thing, I think, for the health of the program. Nothing crazy is going on that requires a bunch of in-depth breakdowns. So it makes room for a lot of fun stuff on a podcast. So it's a good time. If y'all get a chance, give it a listen.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. Glad to see you guys are still motoring through the off season.
Yes,
especially during regionals week, dude. Man, let me tell you guys something. It is this week. It's my favorite week of the year, but also one of the hardest.
Dude,
because between full-time job, doing the podcast, trying to study 3 different teams. We're used to studying 1 team a week.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's 3 teams and Curry Cup. It's a tough week, man. I want to hear some tiny violins play in my direction because.
Oh man!
Yeah, I can't wait for tomorrow. I cannot wait for tomorrow, dude. I don't want everybody to figure this out, but it's better than March Madness.
100%.
Yeah, I think without a doubt.
I want to keep that. I want to keep that just between the 3 of us. So.
Yeah, don't tell anyone that.
Yeah. So if you're listening, earmuffs. Now, if you're listening, most likely you feel the same way we do. So we're ready to get it cracking. We have a few items. We have a lot to cover, but we have some cleanup first. Let's address the elephant in the room. Ray, what the hell is going on?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes, you do.
I don't.
Since we've last recorded, let's see. You've ordained yourself as Pope.
Oh, yeah. Pope Ray the First.
I'll just leave it at that. I'm going to give you the floor, and you just explain what your last few days has been like.
These SEC fanboys and their ridiculous takes that they have on Twitter needed to be called out. Someone needed to expose them for the frauds that they are.
Woo!
It is just, oh my goodness. It gets your blood boiling whenever you think about the constant circle jerk that goes on in that conference. And Jesus, dude, you've got LSU fans, Tennessee fans, Arkansas fans, Ole Miss fans, Mississippi State fans, and they're all like, my SEC. As if they don't do all the same thing, dude. If you actually look at it, only Florida and Vanderbilt, maybe South Carolina, actually somewhat play a real schedule. Dude, these fucking frauds in Knoxville. Oh, dude,
right.
we had 20 wins. We had 40 wins this year. And dude, they had 19 Q4 wins. Cupcakes, dude. And these frauds didn't win a game. They haven't won a home series since March 16th.
All I'm going to
Now-
say is I haven't seen a run like that on Twitter
Oh my goodness.
in a very long time. That was some elite gameplay.
See, let me just. I'm gonna change gears just a bit, then we're gonna get back to this. But Garrett, if you'd have been around, say the years 2014 to 2018.
Oh man, dude. Yeah.
See, you burners think you guys are all original, like you 20 somethings.
Oh my god,
Me, Martin, and Ray were running the burnerverse
dude.
before you guys were in high school.
Dude, yeah, replace the SEC with just Baylor. Good God, I have never. That was at the peak of my. I could not stand anything Baylor.
That was the peak of the internet.
Yeah, it was peak internet. That was Trump going for his first term and everybody losing their shit.
Oh yeah.
That was Trayvon Boykin's run. That was TCU baseball's 4 College World Series in a row run. And we were insufferable, man. It was really just us 3 and MK.
Yeah.
That's really it, man. As
Back
far
when,
as like loud voices on Twitter.
MK's T was at an all-time high. Hell,
He
I
was
think
the
all of
civil
ours.
one. He was the civil one. But all right, let's get back on track. Ray, I'm going to ask you this. Do you feel like you've accomplished anything?
Oh, 120%. Because,
Okay,
dude,
what?
TCU is without a doubt on these programs' levels. If you compare, the SEC loves my history. They always love talking about my history. You start looking at resumes and you go back the last 15 years, TCU is right on par, and if not better. And then they are like, oh, well, you just play in the shit Big 12. Oh, no big deal. Well, a fucking Big 12 team just went into your conference and ran through it.
All right,
Like
Ray.
it was
Well,
nothing.
I want
And
to
that
just
same Big 12 team, Texas couldn't do shit in the Big 12.
okay, but you're not answering my question. Did you change one mind?
Oh, there's someone out there. Their mind was probably. Oh, dude, he actually makes probably a really good point here. Yeah, I
know
think
what was the
LSU and Tennessee are on TCU's level.
The funniest tweet that I saw was some SEC guy was like, "Oh, he's Haas Cartwright's grandson or something like that." Who I guess this Cartwright guy is an Arkansas fan, and so he comments, he's like, "He ain't no fucking kin of mine."
Yeah,
That's so true with them. It's so many of those accounts that were in your Minchies the past couple of days. They take it very, very personally. There's no we're just bantering on Twitter with SEC Burnerverse. It is a personal affront to God and family when you talk about them bowls.
Oh, hey, don't point out that Tennessee's one title is a Mickey Mouse title because the team they played, their coach had quit already.
Well,
Mickey Mouse. And
So-
LSU's only title in the last 15 years, they had a literal god on their team.
They're gonna burn a Tennessee
that
tea
Air
in your
Force-
front yard, Ray.
a god that Air Force developed, by the way.
Yeah. The U.S. it was a U.S. military cyborg
Yeah.
sent to Baton Rouge.
All right. I want to move on from this, but I got to tell you guys my encounter in this. So I see all this traffic going on. I'm like, hey, Ray, why don't you challenge these guys to sign up for Curry Cup, you know? And so he throws a tweet out there taunting them like, hey, put your money where your mouth is. Sign up for Curry Cup. Let's see what you know. Boy, did that backfire. The responses were, oh, so he's just grifting to get money out of us for this stupid bracket challenge. And now I got everybody turning on my beautiful baby that I've created. So I didn't enjoy that very much. And I'm over here on the Curry Cup account like, whoa, no. I asked him to do this, like, and it's actually a lot of fun. Check it out. You should sign up and play.
Yeah. I mean, they should put their money. They think they know so much ball. I'm going to try to keep the cussing to a minimum. A little fired up right now. They think they know ball. Step up.
Yeah. All right. Before we get into regional talk, let's first shout out our sponsors. We have Long Drink, who is the really the title sponsor of the LDC Open. They gave us a very generous drop of delicious long drink with all different flavors. This Saturday, we will be packing our long drink and headed to the golf course. It'll be me and Ray versus Garrett and MK. And today, Ray texted me while I was at work and was like, hey, let's go to the range after work. And I'm like, yeah, all right, that sounds good. And I'm like, I kind of hate the range. I was tempted to just say, let's just go play 9, because I really hate the range. And so we think we're out there like getting an advantage on you guys, like getting some practice in. Nah, man, I'm back to day one golfing. That shit backfired. I couldn't hit a ball today to save my life.
Dude,
I don't
that's
know
what I
about
was
you.
telling you. Like, I haven't played golf in probably 2-3 years.
Well, my advice is do not go to the range.
See, yeah, that's what Molly said. She's like, hey, you haven't played in a while. Like, you should consider going to the Rangers this week. It's like, you know what? Nope. I'm just going to go out there in the first tee box, going to grip it and rip it and see what we got.
Yeah, I played a round on Sunday and played really well, and then come out and hit that range, and I'm like, what's a 7-iron? I don't know.
I mean,
it was horrific. It was horrific. I should change my handicap to like 30 right now.
Then you'd be on par with some of the burners that were in my mentions.
Well, that means MK in our 1v1 on the back 9, he'll have to give me some shots.
I'm ready for Ray and I's epic battle.
It's gonna be fun, man. I'm really looking forward to this. I wish Martin could come out and get some vid and drive the cooler.
Martin could be our cart girl.
Okay, so thanks to Long Drink for the generous shipment today. We will look forward to those out on the course this Saturday. Also, shout out to Chinook. Go to ChinookCeatery.com. Order your combo pack, all the different flavors. They got lemon pepper. They have Hatch chili. They have, help me out, guys. Name some flavors off the top of your head. What's some delicious flavors?
Jalapeno ranch.
Jalapeno ranch.
Ooh,
lemon pepper.
Ranch.
Oh, the smokehouse barbecue is really good.
Yes.
OG.
Yes. The pickle one's actually surprisingly good.
No pickle.
People originally were knocking pickle, and everyone will knock pickle until you try pickle, and then you become a pickle truther.
It's really good, dude. So
it really is.
ChinookCeatery.com. Use promo code LDC. Get 10% off of each and every order. And finally, got to shout out those Anduno boys, TCU grads, upstart business, fantastic travel bag. Like I said on Monday when we recorded, I've been basically living out of mine these past few weeks. So go to anduno.us, use promo code LDC2025, get your travel bag. It's probably too late to get it for Corvallis, but hey, there's always trips upcoming. There might be a trip next weekend. We don't know. We'll have to see. Let's talk about that. Where do you want to start, boys? I want to give a thought on Selection Monday before we totally move on from that. I said on Monday I was surprised that TCU being a really high 2 seed, number 18 in RPI. I feel like we should have gotten matched with a very low seeded host, say a 14 seed, a 15 seed, somewhere along those lines. And then I had the thought yesterday that maybe they gave us the 8 seed thinking that Oregon State is weaker than an SEC opponent, no matter where they're seated.
There was a lot of controversy about Oregon State being a national seed.
Yes, there was.
A lot of people thought that Oregon State maybe should have been like 12th, 13th, maybe. I think the committee just couldn't figure out who to give that to. I think they wanted to give it to Oregon, but Oregon was too low in the RPI. I think maybe they wanted to give it to Coastal, but the
I heard Coastal a lot.
I think the Sun Belt just wasn't as good this year. They only have 2 teams in the tournament, and both of them are hosting. I think they just I don't know, I guess wanted to limit what the Sun Belt got in a down year. And then they probably just didn't want to give another one to an SEC team. So I think Oregon State is ranked higher than they should be. And I think that came into consideration when they sent TCU there.
Yeah.
But man, I don't know. Yeah, I would have liked to, I guess, on paper, be sent to an easier regional.
Right. Yeah, but I think it works out nicely in the fact that if you consider Oregon State ranked too high, then that in theory gives us a slightly easier road in the super regional.
Yes. Instead of going to like Austin, Fayetteville, Baton Rouge.
Oh, those would have been so easy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's what you've been telling us all week.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
Actually, you know what? Yeah. Now that you think about it.
Yeah, TC got
just didn't wanna
screwed.
Yeah. What is this committee thinking?
I think that came into it, and I think also, I don't know, maybe to the committee they believe Florida State is vulnerable in their regional just because they put Northeastern there. I mean, the numbers for Northeastern look very good. Maybe they think, there could be an upset there, and then TCU, if they win their regional, maybe they end up hosting super regional. But it's a okay spot.
All right. Any more thoughts on where we got seated or anything before we just move on and focus on tomorrow?
Question for Martin. Do you think Northeastern bid for a host?
Probably not in their ballpark.
Well, they wouldn't have gotten one.
Yeah, I don't think they were good enough. But I mean, everybody has to submit a bid.
You gotta shoot your shot,
not necessarily.
I mean, Indiana, we saw it with Indiana State a couple of years ago.
Rio Grande Valley didn't submit one. Or was it UTSA? I don't remember.
Yeah, okay, but UTSA is a little bit different. Like this is the first time UTSA has ever been good. And I think their ballpark reflects that they've never been good. I mean, they got like 800 seats and it's all like bleachers. I mean, it's a terrible place. You would never want.
I thought they played the Alamo Dome.
That upon anyone to have to go to a UTSA regional. I think so. The Coach Hallmark, his reasoning for not submitting bid was if they were to do it off campus, that he said it didn't mean as much or whatever. Northeastern has been to regionals and they've been snubbed. I think it means more to Northeastern. Like they take baseball more seriously than UTSA does.
Okay, so if TCU, say hypothetically, we're all speaking hypotheticals right now. Hypothetically, if TCU and Northeastern both come out and say Northeastern did actually put a bid in for supers, of course TCU did. Who would get that? Who would get that host spot?
I think TCU would because they're, I guess, in the higher seeded bracket.
But
I mean, they're the lower seeded 2 seed.
No, but it really comes down to who's better suited to host.
Well, yeah. I mean,
so if the NCAA, I always think the NCAA would rather have it on campus. So whichever school has the better facilities, I think will automatically get it.
Sure.
I don't think the NCAA, because the NCAA doesn't even want teams who are good enough to host, 9 through 16 to really get hosts. Like they didn't want who was it, UCSB hosting from like an hour away in some high A ballpark. They didn't want that, but UCSB was just too good to not host.
Well, we have breaking news. According to Reed's internet, Northeastern did not submit a bid to host.
Oh, dude. See, I was looking at it on Bing, and I thought I saw that Northeastern did submit a bid.
Well, I'm going to believe – I'd rather believe Reed Simpson than your Bing. All
So
right.
let's say, for example, USC, the 3 seed, wins this regional, and then Mississippi State, the 3 seed in the other regional, wins that regional. Who do you think is going to host, USC or Mississippi State?
Mississippi State.
Mississippi State.
Yeah.
USC.
In Irvine.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk baseball. So we talked a little bit how we want to do this with Oregon State being the host, but our first game is against USC. So I think we agreed we would start with USC. So before we get into the nitty gritty, does anybody have any general thoughts on USC holistically?
One of the last 4 teams in. And
Okay.
They sneaked in by the hair on their chinny chin chin.
Is that surprising?
Probably shouldn't have been in over UConn.
Well, do we want to go over their resume or just accept the fact they're in? And
Okay, so I know on TV on the graphic they had USC as the last team in, but I don't think they're the worst
No.
or not auto bid, or I guess worst resume of what do you call them?
Of all the bubble teams.
yeah,
At large.
Okay, at large. Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Let me just read off a few things here. So they were 18-13 against quad 1 and quad 2. They were 6-5 against quad 3 and 11-3 against quad 4. So I think those 8 bad losses had a lot to do with an RPI of 45. Strength of schedule sits at 51. Non-conference strength of schedule, if you care, is at 97. They had 35 wins, 21 losses. On the road, they were 17-9, 18-12 in conference.
Kind of reminds me of TCU's resume last year.
Minus
Yeah.
the good road record.
Yeah, except we were, 38 in RPI?
Yeah, somewhere between 38 and 42, somewhere around there.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to talk about their players?
Do you think it's interesting it's their first regional in 10 years?
Yes.
This is the program with the most national championships in all of college baseball.
I mean, it kind of reflects what's been going on in the state of California altogether, right? Especially over the last 10 years.
I don't know. Stanford's been pretty good.
UCLA.
Yeah, but the whole region as a whole, honestly.
You're talking about just talent leaving the state.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that would have to be a pretty major factor, right? You think, especially, I mean, Southern California area.
I think it's interesting that they've won all of their national championships before the super regional era.
That is a fun fact.
Yeah.
Like super regional era started like in 99 or 2000 or something, and 1998 was literally their last national championship.
They sound a lot like LSU.
LSU just won one.
Yeah, but all their natties are pre 9/11.
All right, let's.
Didn't they have like 3 since 99?
I think so. I know in 2009 and 23 for sure, and I think maybe there was one in like 2007, maybe.
All right, let's move this along. Let's talk about individual players on USC. I will say from what I'm looking at, I see one good pitcher who we'll probably see tomorrow. I don't know if it's been announced, but Caden Aoki is a guy that, he's one of those guys that can beat anyone. He's a good pitcher. They have a couple other pieces that are nice. Andrew Johnson, Brody Purcell, and then their depth really falls off after that. On the offensive side, they have one of the best players in the whole regional, third baseman Ethan Hedges. A couple nice guys, center fielder Braden Dowd, and their DH Adrian Lopez are nice hitters. And then the depth really falls off after that. So when I research this USC team, I see front loaded, lacks depth. And that is a good recipe to be a 3 seed in a regional.
It reminds me a lot of their team from last year that TCU played in Arlington. And it's funny that you mentioned Ethan Hedges
Yeah.
and Caden Aoki, because Caden Aoki started that game. He pitched 5 innings. He looked really good at the beginning, and then Ethan Hedges had 2 hits himself. And then TCU would come back and win that game 9-8. What was it, 11 innings?
Yeah, that wasn't a very fun game for us, despite getting the win.
Yeah, we played terribly, and it was probably not one of the best TCU teams we've put out there.
Yeah. So, Martin, do you have anything else on USC? I mean, there's not a lot of exciting talking points with this team. I think we kind of just covered them. I mean, we can talk about the revenge series of Jack Basir.
Yeah. Nationally, they rank in the top 50 in most pitching categories. I mean, I would say they're a top 50 team in the country.
Yeah.
But TCU, okay, so like for RPI sake, let's say this is about a quad two team. TCU really beat a lot of quad 2 teams this year. I think TCU is going to have a lot of success. USC is like really in the TCU's wheelhouse of like teams that they really succeed against.
Yeah, especially since it was announced today Tommy Lepore is going to go. Should we have that discussion now or save it for later? I mean, because
You can do it now.
Yeah, let's do it now. So I don't mind Tommy Lepore starting, but if you're telling me the reason is we have to worry about the game in front of us, we have to stay in the winner's bracket, we can't look ahead, I think that's terrible reasoning. If you're going to tell me Brassfield matches up well against both St. Mary's and Oregon State, okay, let's throw Tommy Lepore. If you're telling me Brassfield doesn't match up well for whatever reason against USC, okay, throw Tommy Lepore. If you're telling me it's just one game at a time, we have to just worry about one game at a time, I think that's a terrible way to manage a regional. Because, guys, what's the goal of a regional?
Get out of said regional.
Stay in the winner's bracket.
No, it's no.
Yeah.
Right? It's not. When the goal of a regional is to win the regional. So you have to manage it from a regional standpoint.
And you do that by staying in the winner's bracket.
Yeah, but I agree with you that it's bad. It's a bad way to communicate your message when the one game at a time mentality. I'm sure that's not the actual.
What if I tell you, like, Tommy Lepore, in theory, he's probably going to give you seven strong innings. She's done all year. He's very capable of. So you have a pretty rested bullpen going into the Oregon State game. So it's like Brassfield plus Luis Rodriguez.
Okay. Now, my question would be, why not use that rested bullpen against USC and have your best pitcher go against the best team in the regional?
I would rather have the rested bullpen in the second game, knowing I didn't need him in the first game.
I will say in the regionals, coaches get very hush-hush and very secretive. Like USC is not even saying who's going to start.
We know who they're going to start.
We know who they're going to start, but they haven't released it, which is weird. Like most coaches, I think by now have already released it.
If they don't start Caden Aoki, then they have no respect for TCU's lineup. I was
going to say, that means they are zero respect for our program, if that's the case.
Hypothetical here. If Tommy Lepore, let's say he pitches like 2 or 3 innings and TCU is winning like 6-0, do you pull him in the fourth so you can pitch him?
They're going to ride him, dude.
No.
You think?
Yeah.
No, they're going to.
Because at that point, he's already throwing all those warm-up pitches to get ready. You're not going to be able to save any bullets for like a hypothetical game 4 or whatever.
All right, let me ask you this, right? If your point is we worry about the game in front of us, we stay in the winner's bracket. What if we were hosting? What if we were the number 1 overall seed and
then-
Little Rock was our 4 seed.
Okay, then
Are you
Mason
saying, well,
Brassfield? No.
we're focused. We're focused. We're staying in the winner's bracket, baby.
Okay, you know that's flawed logic.
It's not. It's literally what you're saying.
Yeah, we're
You're
not in the
saying-
SEC. They wouldn't send a team with 18 games below 500 as our 4 seed.
Yeah.
But
You're not
my
having
point
North
is,
Dakota State roll in there, but no, you would obviously start Brassfield.
why? You got to worry about the game in front of you. You got to guarantee that you stay in the winner's bracket.
Dude, you know the strategy's different with the 2-3 matchup versus 1-4.
Why?
I mean, look at Oregon State. They're throwing their best arm tomorrow.
I think that's a mistake, unless they actually think their freshman, which we'll talk about, is better.
I think it depends on the 4 seed. TCU never gets an easy 4 seed. I mean, it's usually somebody like Oral Roberts or Central Connecticut State who's, made like 20 regional.
Or McNeese.
Yeah, McNeese is tough.
But in
and
that game against McNeese, we threw our Sunday guy, Austin Krob. So look, I'm not disagreeing necessarily with throwing Laporte. If you think USC is going to give you enough fits where, we don't need to mess around and we need to use Laporte, that's fine. But don't tell me it's because we are focusing on one game at a time. And this isn't even coming from the coaches. It's just a lot of talk on Twitter like, yeah, no, we definitely need to throw Laporte. We can't be getting ahead of ourselves. You have to get you got to manage it. You have to manage it from a standpoint of what's the best strategy to win a regional, not what gives us our best shot to beat USC.
They don't have that much attitude when they tweet it. I might, but
Anyway.
I think the strategy here is just to. I think you kind of saw it in Globe Life. They do not have a third starter right now.
No, they barely have a second. I like Brassfield, but
Yeah, I think the idea is to start. So they have like a list of pitchers, right? This is like your most important guy, your second most important guy, your third most important guy. I think they're just okay. We're gonna throw our first guy, and we're gonna throw him as long as he can go. And then if it becomes a problem, I think they'd rather just deal with that problem when they get there.
But when they get there, is going to be against the number 8 national seed. My thinking is, if you feel like you have enough pieces to get through USC, start Brassfield, use Lewis, do whatever you got to do to save Laporte and win that game. Now you got a first-team All-American going against Oregon State, and you're looking real good to win the regional at that point.
I mean, maybe they feel a lefty matches up better with
Oregon
State.
And that's all well and good if that's the reasoning. But if it's just, we're not going to mess around.
Dude,
We got to make sure we beat USC. You got to manage it from a standpoint of how do we win? What's our best strategy to win 2 games, not win 1? We had this same debate in Omaha when we threw Klecker against Florida in game 1. And I said, all right, then you're going to have nobody for game 2. Like, you need to try to piece together pieces in game 1 and have Klecker for game. It's not about just exhausting the tank to win 1. You have to beat Florida twice. You got to manage it from an 18-inning standpoint.
And that difference, though, you lose that first 9 innings and you're going home.
What difference does it make if you're going home after the second 9 innings?
Well, at least you made it to the second 9 innings, and who knows what happens there? Maybe your offense catches fire. Maybe the other starter's not on that day.
All right,
and
well,
you mash them.
What's going to happen here is we're going to be going up against a really good Oregon State team without our best pitcher. So,
and that's how it's going to be in the majority of these regionals. Like, I think, like, everyone's talking about Oklahoma versus Nebraska, and Oklahoma's not throwing Witherspoon, their Friday guy.
That's very smart of them.
And everyone is like, what a gamble Oklahoma is taking here.
All right. But think about this. It doesn't make any difference if you win the first game and lose the second game versus losing the first game. It doesn't make any difference. We've had this debate every year we've been doing this show when TCU's been in the postseason. It makes No difference. You're still coming through the losers bracket either way. The only advantage is winning the first 2 games. If you go 1-1 or 0-1, you're in the same spot.
Yeah, if you lose either one of them, you're still playing 2 on Sunday.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're really in a pickle.
Yeah. No, I think if for TCU to make it out of this regional, they have to start 2-0. To me, what gives us our best chance of starting 2-0 is having Tommy Lepore against Oregon State.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that statement there.
Now, for whatever reason, I still don't understand it because I said we've had this debate every year. TCU's been in the postseason, and Perk makes the point, you have to win game 1. No matter what, you have to win game 1. And I say, why? Only if, yeah, you have to win game 1 to win game 2. But if you exhaust yourself to win game 1 and lose game 2, you're still in the same spot.
Okay, but if you say you don't throw your best arm game 1, you lose game 1. Now you're throwing your best arm game 2?
No.
Or are you saving them?
Yes, you're going to play St.
I mean-
Mary's. And now you have Lepore going against Oregon State in that next game.
Yeah, but
I think that's what coaches probably want to avoid the most. Okay, so in this scenario you're talking about, let's say we throw Brassfield against USC, we lose, and then we got to play St. Mary's.
Yep.
Well, who's going to start that game? And then what if you lose that game? Then you just went through a regional, you went 0-2, and you didn't even throw your best pitcher.
You never saw the.
That's horrific. However, we saw this play out in 2019. We did not start Lodolo against Cal, and we lost the first game. So now we're playing whoever the hell the 4 seed was the next day, and we started, who knows, somebody, and we won. Then we threw Lodolo against Arkansas in the 3rd game.
Yeah, that's. Could you imagine the outrage?
The
if you
hindsight
went
outrage would be.
Q and Q without
If you
throwing
if you lose to
Lepore.
USC and St. Mary's, it doesn't matter. You didn't deserve to be in the regional
Yeah,
anyway.
I was gonna say if that actually did happen, the outrage would not.
But then
be
we
more.
also just said that
It would be a
TCU
bummer.
really doesn't have a 3rd starter right now.
No, they don't have a 3rd starter, but they do have many pieces.
You could couple it together without having to throw the floor.
Of course. I mean, we saw them do it against Arizona.
All right, I'm going to read you some names, and I want you guys to tell me who you're not confident in, okay? And then I'll make my point after. I'm going to read them. Somebody speak up when you say, yeah, I really don't want to see him pitch, okay? Tommy Lepore, Braden Sloan, Luis Rodriguez, Mason Brassfield, Cade Udy, Nate Stern, Cohen Fieser, Trevor Baumler. All right. Here's why I read those names. Because you remember when we talked about in the beginning of the year, TCU needs to find between 6 to 9 guys who are going to throw 80% of the innings.
Mm-hmm.
The names I just read are the names that have thrown 80% of the innings.
Did you say Cademan Parker?
I took him out because of injury and that put Nate Stern in.
Yeah, I think Udy. I don't know if Udy's going to be ready.
Udy is. I saw he was ready.
Okay.
He should pitch this weekend. That's the word. All right. So when you're saying we don't have a 3rd starter, well, we do have these guys. That's enough for 27 innings.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another point. If you throw a bullpen game on Friday, then some of those guys could be ready to go again on Sunday versus trying to throw them on Saturday and then turn around and throw them on Sunday.
So just hypothetically, if you throw Brassfield and you win the first game, and then Oregon State loses to St. Mary's, and you're in the winner's bracket against St. Mary's, are you throwing Lepore?
No.
Really?
I think you're throwing Lepore,
In that case,
and you can just chill to Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point,
Because it's possible that you never even see Oregon State.
it's possible, but you
But then
still
you'll-
have to win another game.
But then you'll definitely see Oregon State if you lose that game.
Yeah. No, I mean, realistically, yeah, but pure just game theory, I'm probably saying no, because I'm looking at. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Now's a good time to share my screen, and I'll show you what I'm looking at with St. Mary's pitching.
Ain't got none.
Well, almost, pretty much.
Damn.
That's pretty
there's-
low.
They do have this guy. Let me introduce you to Dylan Del Vecchio, who Oregon State will see tomorrow evening.
Mhm.
P-WAR of 0.75. But golly, look what happens after that.
Oh, that's bad.
So, yes, give me St. Mary's without Del Vecchio on Saturday.
Let's go.
I don't think you're going to have to worry about it. I think St. Mary's is a pretty bad team. I think Oregon State is going to house them. And they're going to have all these guys over here. This is Ethan Kleinschmidt, which I believe is a reliever. Martin, what do you know about any of these names? Nelson Kelhio?
Oh, Nelson Keljo, he was their Friday
Keljo.
night guy. He's a left-handed guy. He was a lefty, like to start. I mean, obviously he's still a lefty, but he was their Friday guy.
I thought you were about to say he switched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, he transitioned. No, he was their Friday guy. He was their Friday
Common
guy
in California.
for most of the year, and I guess he was either ineffective or maybe an injury or something like that, but he was moved to the bullpen. So he's thrown out of the bullpen. I don't think he's pitching that well, but he is left-handed. He has nasty stuff. That might be like a scary guy for TCU to face. Obviously, I think you'd rather he pitch and be burned game one just because he's probably got the best stuff from the left side for Oregon State, and that's just a bad matchup for TCU.
Yeah, so something to keep an eye on, even if the game's not necessarily competitive. We'll see if Keljo pitches.
Mm-hmm.
We would love that. Moving on down the line here, we have Dax Whitney, who is the probable starter versus TCU or game 2 or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so he's a big righty from Idaho. He was one of the top. He was like a projected first-round draft pick out of high school last year. He chose to go to Oregon State instead. Most of the stuff I hear about him is he's got that rising fastball that you hear guys talk about a lot.
Like the closer for Arizona that ate our lunch.
Mm-hmm. Like what is it, vertical break or whatever they call it?
Yeah.
I always see Verlander when I hear people talking about that, but he gets a lot of strikeouts.
He does. Doesn't walk a ton.
Has he been the Saturday guy all year?
I looked at the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, and yeah, he was a Saturday guy, and he seemed to get stronger as the year went. Kind of, guess one of those freshmen that grew up over the season.
But the thing is, also Oregon State saw lesser competition once the season
That's
started.
where, if you want to talk about Oregon State as a whole for a second, that's where I landed with this team is, yeah, I mean, they got some impressive guys, but it's really tough to judge based on their schedule.
Yeah, I was really hoping that Oregon State would have something very unique and interesting and like something like the Xavier non-conference schedule, you know. I really wasn't I really wasn't impressed with what they put together. And I know it was pretty hard to do, you know, last minute. But then they didn't really play well when they played against the good teams. Like they got swept in a 4-game series against Oregon.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yes.
And then, you know, what, like 90% of their schedule is like Long Beach State, Cal State Fullerton, teams like that. I'm not sure why they didn't just join the West Coast Conference for 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah, this whole regional, honestly, is very tough to evaluate. Just from an apples to apples standpoint. Like, we can look at their numbers, in a silo, but what does it mean in context? It's really tough to judge with these teams. Like, when we were previewing the Big 12 teams, it was like, all right, it's similar schedules, at least in conference. Like, you have a pretty good idea what you're going to get. And I think throughout the season, when we were previewing the Big 12 teams, I think we did a good job of letting people know what to expect. I'm doing this episode in real time right now, thinking, I don't know if we can really give everyone a clear idea of what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon State, like you said, they're loaded with a bunch of individual players. Some had a really good season, some didn't. It's hard to tell, especially with the inconsistency of their schedule. Like, there wasn't 10 weeks in a row where they played a quality opponent,
And on that note, Reed asks, what is their best series win? Does anybody have that off the top of their head? I mean, there was Long Beach State, Hawaii, Iowa, I guess Iowa.
Didn't they win one and one was tied or something like that because of curfew? But then I was
Long
not
Beach
even
State?
that good.
They won
There, let me
two.
just-
I mean, it was.
They won two in Iowa.
Yeah, they won
I don't
two
think
in
I
Iowa.
was that good. I saw Iowa and
All right,
Cleburne. They played Washington.
Long
go down
Beach
the
State, I
list.
guess.
And I'll tell you what, let's start in mid-March. Once, you figure out who the teams really are. Cal Poly. It's okay. Right? What do you think about Cal Poly? Like, that's another team tough to judge based on who they played.
Yeah.
Okay. Irvine.
Gross.
There you go. There's your answer. Irvine. They
Irvine's
lost a
a good
series in
one.
Nebraska.
Losing at Nebraska is disgusting.
Yeah, that's very bad. Yeah, beating Irvine's that's a good win. And then they got their ass handed to them by Oregon.
Beating
And
UCLA
Hawaii,
in the
dude.
midweeks, that's a nice win.
Dude, this schedule is
Midweek doesn't
boring.
matter.
I
at
don't
least
care
until,
about
like,
midweek.
the
I'm
Sunday.
literally not even looking at midweek. Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're looking at this schedule and it's like, how'd you do against Oregon? Oh, let's see. 0-4, and we got outscored
Shoo, look at the game too.
28-9 in those 4 games.
Dude, you have that game
Yikes.
too. That's your Saturday boy that TCU
Yeah.
could face.
Yeah, that's it right there.
Nummies.
Thought I had
Yeah,
their
like
schedule.
even what's his name? Ava Arquette, everybody's talking about him. He could be like the number 1 overall pick this year in the draft. In the games against other teams in the tournament, apparently you went like 10 for 40 or something like that. So it's not really impressive.
Isn't that? Yeah, that's
It's like 250, around 200.
yeah. I was thinking around 200. And TCU's done a good job this year with other teams' best hitters for the most part. It's been, the guys that are in usually a big, burly first baseman.
So on
that's
that
gotten
note,
them.
I'll flip over to offense. But before I do that, would you guys think it's crazy if I said that Sawyer Stroh-Snyder's the 5th most dangerous hitter in this regional?
No.
I would not.
What if you hadn't done any research? Would you think that's crazy?
Then I
Yeah.
would think you're
Yes.
asinine.
All right.
Absolutely, yes.
So let's start with Oregon State. We can just go left to right here. So this is Ava Arquette, their shortstop. Solidified stud. I don't care who he played against. I mean,
wonder if that's
he's very
David
good.
Arquette's son.
It is not.
All right.
But behind him, there's Gavin Turley, the left fielder. And just based on P-WAR and, the teams that these hitters have played, Oregon State is definitely the best hitting team in this regional. I mean, they're hosting for a reason.
Yeah, Gavin Turley, he's a probably going to be another top 3 round pick for Oregon State this year. Big bat. He had a very bad strikeout issue last year. He improved it a lot. I mean, he's still striking out like 27% of the time, but he's a very good hitter.
What about Easton Tall? Do you have anything on him?
No. The only other hitter that I kind of know is Trent Caraway, but he's probably going to be like at the bottom of your list.
Is he their 9-hole hitter who's really highly touted but had a bad year?
Yeah, so he's a draft eligible sophomore. I watched him a ton in the Cape because he was on Carson's team.
Mm-hmm.
He did some special things. Like I think he's a right-handed hitter and he like hits bombs and he's a very good defender, but he's just, I don't know, he's got like a 700 OPS this year with Oregon State. I'm pretty sure he'll be back next year, but he's still ranked like in the top 150 of draft prospects for this year.
Just some context for this graph. So I filtered out guys who I believe won't play, and I did that by saying who has taken 90% of the teams at bats. So kind of like what I did with pitching with 80% of the innings. This is 90% of all the teams at bats. So guys who got a few at bats here, there in the preseason, say like Preston Gamster for us, like I filtered those guys out. So I'm looking at this Oregon State team, and overall pretty solid all the way down. What is Dallas Macias giving them to be in that top 90% of at bats?
Defense.
He's a center fielder.
It's got to be defense, right?
I'll be interested to see if he's in the lineup this weekend. Because if you were to take him out, that Oregon State lineup, I mean, it's the best in the regional. So
yeah, who you're replacing him with?
No, there's like more than 9 guys here.
Oh, gotcha.
There's 9 here now. They had 10. 10 guys made up 90% of their at-bats. So St. Mary's, are they a good, like, I keep hearing they're a great hitting team. Are they? Because
they have a great first baseman. I know that.
Eddie Madrigal's a player. Absolutely. Eddie Madrigal's
I asked you guys before the episode if you saw they played San Diego. They beat San Diego in the West Coast Conference tournament.
Yeah.
St. Mary's was the 3 seed. San Diego was the 1 seed. So you said you saw the last game where St. Mary's had like this, what was it, 5-run lead, and then San Diego came back late and made it a 1-run game.
And San Diego blew it.
Game. That was the boring game of the day.
The comeback San Diego had, I saw, highlights of it.
So earlier that day, San Diego was losing like 10-3, and they came back and they tied it. I think they were winning at one point, and then St. Mary's tied it in the 9th, and then they went to like 14 innings. And then that one guy, Aiden Howard, the DBU transfer that was playing center field for San Diego, he hits a walk-off 3-run home run that forced that, winner takes all game. After a game like that where you blow a 7-run lead to win the conference and get your auto bid, I thought it was kind of impressive that they came back and kind of handled San Diego in that second game until that last inning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So St. Mary's and Oregon State, I feel like they're both in very different mindsets, because Oregon State, not in a conference, didn't play in a conference tournament. So they've been off. And you have St. Mary's, who went through that brutal stretch in the West Coast Conference, and they won. They came out of it stronger, and they're in mid-season, or they're like on their postseason run already. They're in it. Their blood is boiling, and they want it. So I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but if there was a time for it to happen, I feel like it would be Friday.
I mean, I'll be watching. We'll see. We'll see. But, I mean, just evaluating their offense, they have 2 guys that kind of make you raise your eyebrow and then some pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing special. I'll skip TCU. I'll go over here to USC. They're kind of a mixed bag. I feel like they're pretty even as far as the lineup goes because you don't see like with TCU, their graph. You have 4 guys at the top and then a big gap and then some pieces. You don't see the gaps on USC's graph. They have a stud. They have Ethan Hedges, who we've talked about. And then they have a couple nice hitters. Braden Dowd. They have Adrian Lopez. We've talked about these guys, but there's no major drop-off.
You said this is their total WAR or just O WAR?
O WAR.
Okay.
But they also don't have as many guys that scare you either. So I think it's a pretty balanced lineup, but not a lot of fear factor.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's almost identical to the team that we saw last year in Global
Yes.
at the beginning
Right.
of the year.
So if you're listening to this and you remember the game from last year, just kind of pesky, kind of annoying. But I mean, if we're throwing Tommy Laporte, I don't give a shit who's in their lineup.
Yeah, I looked at I guess where they rank overall. Their pitching is really what's carrying them. That probably is the difference for them this year as opposed to last year. They didn't make a regional. Their pitching is pretty solid, and on offense, they don't hit for power. I mean, they're more like a hits. They hit doubles. I think maybe they got some speed to stretch some singles into doubles, but they really don't hit for power.
Yeah, and that's kind of what this chart is telling me, to be honest.
If you had to compare this USC pitching to a Big 12 staff, who would it be?
Well,
Is it like Oklahoma State?
I don't know. We didn't play Oklahoma State.
West Virginia?
I think it's more like West Virginia. I feel like USC probably has like 3 good starters across the board, and it's more depth than like stars. And I think West Virginia is pretty similar.
If you change the subject for a second, I can tell you.
I just want to stay on the subject.
Well, let me make the graph real quick.
Another thing about St. Mary's, they led the West Coast Conference in bunts, sacrifice bunts by like double.
God.
Well, that is West Coast, baby.
That's not even something I considered.
Is that a chart that you can make bunting?
No.
They destroyed
the information
the West Coast Conference in bunts, sack bunts.
We'll call it the B War. Bunting War.
That's baseball reference war.
Whatever, man. I was just trying to make a joke. Okay.
Who am I missing?
You don't have to put Texas Tech in there because you know they are stinky poo-poo.
UCF.
Okay, so they're kind of on par with like Baylor.
But Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, thank you. Appreciate everyone watching on YouTube. If you're listening live stream, you may want to watch YouTube for this one.
Damn, Oklahoma State had really good pitching.
No, that's what's his name? That's Bodendorf. Yeah.
Yeah, that dude.
No, they had awesome pitching. They didn't lose because of pitching.
Okay, so if I was looking at them.
All right, so where is
Baylor? Kind of like Baylor.
Minus
all the left-handers.
I'd say they're close to Cincinnati and Baylor. Yeah.
I'm just trying to go by top of the chart and bottom of the chart.
Look at you want to look at that, but also this box here because that kind of tells you the normal pitching. Whereas everyone outside of the box is kind of an outlier. Like these guys are better than average, and then the guys below the box are worse than average.
Man, Baylor's got a lot of average.
Can you take off BYU, Houston, Oklahoma State, Utah, and
Hold
Texas
on.
Tech?
Yeah, hold on. Utah, BYU,
Oklahoma
Houston.
State, Houston. And Texas Tech.
Okay. I'm getting Cincinnati vibes.
Dude, there's that little bar of average is so small.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It is because they don't have like their elite guy is not as elite as say TCU, Kansas, or Arizona State.
Who's their elite guy? Is that Aoki or whatever?
Yeah, that's Aoki. But their floor is also smaller than every other team.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you have to keep in mind some of these guys, like let's say hypothetically, all these teams are in the postseason. A lot of these guys here at the bottom wouldn't be pitching.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Be from that middle of the box up.
Yeah, it just depends. Like for the 3 teams in our regional, I had the time to actually calculate who their important pitchers are and filter as such. But obviously I can't do that right now. So you have to take it with a grain of salt with the bottom guys, but you can point out that their floor is a pretty high floor.
Yeah, I mean, and they finished top 50 in pretty much every pitching statistical category, and that kind of looks like a team that would do that.
So, I mean, if we want to just tie it back to our starting pitching discussion, if you think they're dangerous enough on offense and dangerous enough pitching, that's reason enough for me to start Tommy Laporte tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is with the logic of, you can only worry about the game in front of you. No, that's not what you worry about.
Well, I like Tommy countering Aoki a lot more than I would, Brassfield.
Yeah, the problem is who's waiting for you in the next game, which is just as an important game as
Oregon State. They got a big old juicy bar.
they got a lot of variance in their pitching.
Mm-hmm.
I would venture to guess that everybody from here down will not pitch.
Yep. Okay, but so their top bar, is that the guy that's throwing tomorrow, that Sedura guy or whatever?
No. This is Kleinschmidt.
Okay.
Martin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's a reliever.
Yeah, I don't know Kleinschmidt. I think he is a reliever. I was just looking at guys who might start or have started.
Yeah. So consider him like a Braden Sloan.
Okay. So you said, what is it, that Dax guy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So where's he at on there?
Right here.
Right there.
And then where's Brassfield on TCU's?
So Brassfield is going to be hurt on this because he hasn't pitched as many innings.
That in the Arizona State game.
So he's kind of on par with Dax. Yes, the Arizona State game did not do him any favors, but limited innings also hurt.
Yeah. I mean,
The Arizona State game is what limited in its innings.
Yeah.
Did he throw it? What?
Dude,
he got an out?
I'm telling you, like the longer this episode goes, the more frustrated I get that we can't really give a clear picture of what's going to happen.
Oh,
and I don't want to bullshit it either. I don't want to say like, yeah, this is totally what's going to happen when really this is such a wait and see regional.
Well, Jacob,
I've looked into some of the other regionals and I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what's going to go on in those, despite not knowing nearly as much about those teams as I do TCU and, the day and a half I've spent looking at these other teams.
So
there's so many unknowns in this regional. Huh?
Ethan Kleinschmidt is a left-handed pitcher, so you definitely want him to
That's
be burned.
fun.
Oh, he's got 14 starts. What the heck? He's a starter.
Man, golly. So maybe
Damn,
some
so they'll
depth.
probably start him against us.
Maybe could.
They're really high on this Dax kid, though. Like, they thought he might be the one to go tomorrow as, like, the ace.
Well, if they threw him tomorrow, then they were saving. I don't know. You could spin it however you want with whoever they were going to throw.
All right, quick look at defense just for fun. TCU has the best defender in the regional. We say that every week because Silva's one of the best defenders in the country.
Dude, I would even say their second best guy is on par with every team's best guy.
Yeah, that'd be Cole Kramer, I believe.
Brunson.
Kramer.
Oh.
Brunson's down here. But I mean, look, these are all good defensive teams. Like, we're in the postseason. You're not going to find, Houston level defending anymore. It's just not going to happen.
Some 4 seeds would disagree with you.
Some 4 seeds, yes. St. Mary's downfall. I will tell you this: St. Mary's will not pitch well in this regional. That's one thing I'm certain of, and that's about it. And Lepore will pitch well. That's. I feel good. I feel really good about beating USC with Lepore. And then after that, man, it's get your popcorn ready, and because Oregon State's such an unknown,
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like, well, we should have been watching Oregon State because they were on their own private network all season. So it's not like they were on ESPN Plus where we could watch them.
I watched some games when they play San Diego, but San Diego was not good.
Yeah.
Well, Jacob, I can tell you a good way of seeing how this regional will go since there are a lot of unknowns. And I've taken this from our friends over at 11.7. Tonight after the range, I was hankering for some fast Chinese food. Hit up the local Panda Express, and I have before me a fortune cookie.
We're gonna do this.
All right.
I've got a fortune cookie right here,
Let's do it.
and this will tell us our fortune going through regionals.
All right,
Breaking it open.
Let me stop sharing my screen.
Okay, so we've got our fortune cookie right here.
And that's sealed.
It was. I just opened it up, but
certified by KPMG or whoever does the draft lottery.
Yeah, certified. No, it does not feel cold to the touch. No tomfoolery going on here, right? So I have TCU's fortune.
And
right
you didn't
here.
just pull that out of your pocket, right? That came out
I
of the
did
cookie?
not. No,
Okay.
no.
All right, this is official as it gets.
So TCU's fortune. Your sensitivity is an asset. What do we make of that, boys?
I don't know. I was looking for some drop to play. I don't know. Your sensitivity is an asset.
Dude, that is your fortune cookie, Ray.
No, he deemed it to be the regional fortune.
Yeah. I mean, we could spin it
tough.
one of
Garrett,
many ways.
how do you spin this? Your sensitivity is an asset.
We are sensitive to worrying about the first game.
That's a terrible response.
That's good. No, that's good.
So we're going to throw Tommy Lepore tomorrow night.
Let's see. Sensitive. Ray is sensitive.
All right, I got it. Kirk Sarlos will get so offended by the first pitch of the game being called a strike when it was clearly outside that he will strike fear into the umpiring staff that will pay dividends
It's not very sensitive.
for the whole regional. No, he's
Sounds like
sensitive.
he'll get thrown out by a sensitive umpire.
Yeah.
No. His sensitivity to the bad call will reap dividends for the rest of the regional.
I like it.
So look out for that. First pitch of the game. Keep an eye on Kurt in the dugout.
Sensitive Mark will be knowing exactly whenever to make the a right pitching change.
Ooh.
When he senses that a guy is starting to lose it.
Okay.
I just hope there's no Big 12 umpires in Corvallis.
Yeah, you better be buttoned up. You better be wear like a suit. Be, 3-piece suit, vest, there, a bow tie maybe.
All right.
So who gets assigned to these regionals? Is it like by NCAA or is it by conference or what?
Pac-12 umpires.
Oh, yeah,
what they wore like Pac-2 patches.
All right. Before we get to our closing statements, let me just announce to the audience, if you are looking for a bracket challenge for the regionals, if you want a chance to win some money, go to Twitter, go to @CurryCupNCAA and send a DM and we'll get you hooked up. So here's how this works. You pay a fee, you get in the tournament, you make picks for regionals and super regionals. The lower the seed that you pick, so a 1 seed is worth 1 point. If you pick a 4 seed to win and they win, it's worth 7 points. So you're rewarded for courageous choices, okay? Now, let's say your regional picks don't do all that well, or maybe they do well and you're sitting, towards the lead. Well, you start from scratch and you pick the Omaha bracket. So unlike other bracket challenges where they make you pick all the way through, you get to reset whether you're doing well or doing poorly. You reset at Omaha, you make picks again. And then those picks are valued. They're valued higher as, the tournament goes on. So picking the champion is worth the most points versus picking, the first game winner. So right now the prize pool sits at close to $1,000 for first place, and second and third also win a cash prize. So if you want to make this a little interesting, if you want to have some juice, some buy-in on these other regionals, if you want to stay up and sweat that Los Angeles regional because you have a 3 seed winning and they have a 1-run lead in the 8th, then sign up for Curry Cup. If you're not on Twitter, you can send an email to currycupncaa@gmail.com. I'll be taking entries all the way up until first pitch tomorrow. So
better cut it off at like 10:30.
No.
You don't want an entry at like 10:59 and then
He does.
Yeah, I do. I do it every year. Because what are you going to learn about the first half of the first inning of the first game? That's like, oh shit, I got an edge.
Who's the first game? Was it like
Florida State and Bethune-Cookman?
Oh man, dude, what if Florida State just gives up 4 home runs?
Oh, so that
riding with Bethune, baby.
If Florida State jumps out to a lead, you're going to be like, okay, now
I'll
pick Florida State.
What if because Florida State's going to be the home team, obviously. So what if they give up 4 nukes in the first 4 pitches?
Then maybe you'll cheat and pick Bethune-Cookman, and Florida State will still beat them by 10. So anyway, yeah, if you want to play, that's the last ad read I'm going to do for it because the tournament starts, guys, in 15 hours.
Dude, prove you know more than all these SEC fanboys in my mentions.
Keep up the good fight, Ray.
That's right, not hard to do. These are some idiots.
Real quick, let's go around the room in 10 seconds. Tell me how you feel about the regional and who's winning it. We'll start with Garrett.
10 seconds? I don't need 10 seconds, baby. I feel great. I feel fantastic. I don't care who you throw tomorrow. We're going to win the fucking regional.
Okay, Ray.
Yeah, you have to feel good about this as a Frog fan. Oregon State hasn't played in nearly a month. They haven't played really anybody all year. When they have, it's been a mixed bag of results. Frogs come out of this regional.
Martin.
I feel terrible, but I will still pick TCU to win.
All right, I'll go last. The main thing that concerns me about this regional, aside from the unknowns, is that TCU has had trouble closing portions of their schedule out, sweeping a series, winning a tournament. They've had trouble stepping on throats. But with that said, it all changes this weekend. Frogs fucking sweep. We're going to supers.
You goddamn right.
Ass. Applying belt to ass.
Toadcast tomorrow. We'll see you all there. That's it for tonight. Go Frogs, baby.
Go Frogs.
Go Frogs.